Welcome to the Never Ending Backlog podcast, your place for short reviews from a gamer with the goal of reducing his backlog. From adventures to sandboxes, join our host as we walk through a collection of unplayed treasures. Now, let's take a look at the featured game of this episode of the Never Ending Backlog.
Hello everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Never Ending Backlog podcast. I am your host Zach, and today we'll be reviewing Pac-Man Championship Edition 2, made by Bandai Namco Studios, the company behind tons of games, from everything from the Dark Souls series, which are some of my favorite games, to Project Cars, and of course, Pac-Man. But before we begin the review, the arcade nerd inside me is geeking out about this review. Although I was never massively into the Pac-Man series, I do have some fond memories of it, such as the first one, which I think is funny. In middle school, when we were playing Mavis Beacon Teaches Typing, which I have a funny story about, which my friend and I found where they kept the score files for Mavis Beacon, and we would copy the file into our profiles to show that we've completed it. Eventually we got caught, so we were cheating. Eventually we got caught, and the interesting story number 2 that goes with that is my friend ended up marrying that teacher's daughter. So needless to say, I was from a smaller city. But anyways, back to the middle school typing. When we finished our Mavis Beacon lessons, we had free time where we could either go online to maybe altavista.com and download GIF images to save as the Windows 95 background, or play Pac-Man, which we had on the Windows 95 computers. Many times there were contests who could get the highest scores. Those required patience and focus, so needless to say, the middle schooler in me never got very far. However, I did have an awesome Skeleton Warrior GIF background, but that was until the computers would reset in the evening and everything would go back to the way they were. And if you're wondering, how is that possible? Well, funny story about that too, and I will get back on topic, is my father was the computer technician for that school. So eventually I realized there's an actual key, a car key or a house key in the back of the PC that you could turn the switch to prevent it from resetting the data. Unfortunately, I was out of middle school by that time, and before I'd gotten my hands on a key. So unfortunately, my cool Skeleton Warrior GIF background just never stayed. Phew, memory lane there. Well, number two, guys, there was 2 of them, was playing Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures on the Super Nintendo, where you could control Pac-Man in a storyline point-and-click game. I distinctly remember shooting the dog, I was a different child back then, and having him attack Pac-Man, which was hilarious because Pac-Man would make a hilarious noise. Yeah, I never got far into the game. However, friends and I would trade game cartridges on the school bus in the mornings, and that would be one that I would always get. That and, of course, Vector Man for the Sega Genesis. I mean, how many people had that in their collection? It was a great game, but everybody had that game. That and Echo the Dolphin. Everybody had that game. So, fun stories aside, I believe I got this game in a bundle since I had thought I could play it across all 3 monitors at the same time. Unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case, at least not up front. The game did load up right the first time. It centered itself inside the center monitor, and everything worked perfectly during my playtime. As mentioned previously, I never really got into Pac-Man as much. I prefer slightly newer arcade machines with slightly better graphics. However, after playing the tutorial for the new Pac-Man, I will say there's a lot more going on for it than previous Pac-Man games. So here's my little disclaimer here though. If you are a Pac-Man purist, then this game is probably not for you. You will hit the ghost on purpose. You will jump around the screen. If you don't like flashing lights and quick movements, then this game is also not for you. This is very different than the other Pac-Man games. There's a lot of stuff going on in this game, and it's sporadic. After completing about 70 to 80% of the tutorial, I was able to start playing challenges, which were basically overarching goals that you could complete to earn more points, to earn a higher level letter score. Some things in this game or functions, the ghost can be hit by Pac-Man, so you literally run into the ghost, aka you just run right into them. If you hit them multiple times in a row, so it's like bam, 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 they will become enraged and chase you around like a normal ghost would, and if they hit you, you die. If you hit them in a spread amount of times, so if it's like bam, run away, bam, run away, bam, you can push them around all day and you can escape them or turn around and so on and so forth. When they become enraged, though, they fly up in the air first before coming after you. Therefore, if you need to get past them, sometimes it's best to actually hit them 3 times real fast and then basically go underneath them to get away. But you must realize when they become enraged, they start flashing sporadically, and they speed up quite a bit. So you have to prepare to run really, really fast. Another feature is there are bombs that you have. You have a limited supply, and you can get more. But you use the bombs to get back to where the fruit or item will spawn. And when the item spawns or the fruit spawns, that goes on to the next level. So it's not just like, oh, here's 100 points. It goes to the very next level. So even if you don't have all the pegs selected, it does go to the next level as long as you get that fruit. But you have to get enough pegs to unlock that fruit item. So you use the bomb. So like say you're on the other side of the screen and you're collecting these pegs and you get enough to unlock the fruit item. You use the bomb to blow you up to basically get you over to the fruit item where you pick it up real quick to go on to the next level. This is also a really good tool to use to get rid of enraged ghosts that are chasing you. Another thing is there are sleeping mini ghosts on the map. So these are smaller ghosts that have little Z's above their head. When you wake them, they attach themselves to a ghost in the game, thus forming a ghost train, which is what they actually call it. This brings in an element of centipede and snake to Pac-Man, which makes it a little challenging because it is a smaller map and you have this giant train coming at you. With the ghost train, when you eat enough pegs, the fruit item will sometimes be a power peg, which is in previous Pac-Man games, it basically allows you to eat the ghosts. That's what makes them all start flashing. You can eat them. With the power peg, it outlines the track of where the ghost train is going. So you'll see like a line. So it's like Tron. You'll see where it's going. If you cut off the ghost train and you eat the caboose, I guess you could say, or the locomotive, you will basically eat the whole train, earning massive points. And it does like this real cool animation where it's like, and you're eating all these trains. So you want to get the train really big so you can eat it and get a lot of points. There are also jump ports that allow you to jump from one section of the map to the next side. There are boss fights when you need to complete certain objectives. There's just a lot of stuff going on to it. I'm sure there are many more things. However, I did just get started into the game. Another reason I really like this game is it reminded me of a local arcade I would visit that had a massive 100-inch screen version of a modern Pac-Man to it that looked very similar to this. It was a pretty sweet system, and with arcades being closed right now due to COVID, it offered some enjoyment. I should try hooking this up to a projector. I think it'd be pretty awesome. One thing this game made me realize is how good I think I am doing does not always equal how good I really actually am doing in arcade games. And this isn't for Pac-Man, this is for all arcade games. For instance, in Crazy Taxi, which is one of my favorite arcade games, I would pick up all of my guests, because that's the point of the game. You're a taxi driver, you pick up guests, and you listen to The Offspring, which was amazing. And I felt like I was taking great shortcuts, and I'd walk away with the B ranking, which is, it's not terrible, there's worse, but still pretty awful. Primal Rage, another arcade machine that I've owned in the past. I would beat all the beasts and the boss, and end up in 7th or 8th place in points on the scoreboard. So that was just a bummer. So, and in this case, with the new Pac-Man, I'd get 2 million points. You're thinking, 2 million, that's great. And it'd be like a B ranking. Like, okay. So, as I mentioned before, I'm not really completionist for these type of games. And I play them for the temporary enjoyment, maybe a break from reality, or I want to get into that arcade feeling. But I'm not really one of those people that's like, oh, I need to get an S or an A in everything. So overall, I would actually recommend this Pac-Man Championship Edition 2. It is challenging. It's extremely fast-paced. It offers a different spin on the traditional Pac-Man, and I'm not a big fan of the original Pac-Man, so maybe I would really like that. Maybe that's why I like this. Having challenges and other power-ups, it makes the game feel a lot newer, which is nice, while still holding on to some of the core components of Pac-Man, such as ghosts and pegs and all that stuff. However, as mentioned earlier, if you are a fan of traditional Pac-Man with the occasional new feature added, then no, you will absolutely not like this game. This is really nothing like Pac-Man. You won't be playing constantly to get the new high score before dying. It has timed levels, and it's far different than the traditional Pac-Man, cocktail. But as a challenging game, I think it was enjoyable, and overall, I recommend it personally. But don't go into this thinking, oh, I just want to play for a remastered Pac-Man. There's enough of them out there. Play those ones. This game is not like that. This is like a mini game version of Pac-Man, or playing Pac-Man Adventures 2. You don't consider that a Pac-Man game. It just has the name Pac-Man. But according to Is There Any Deal, the best price was free, once again, on Steam. However, the current best price is $11.69 on Games Planet, which is a Steam key reseller platform. So there you go. It is Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 on the PC. And thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.